it is. Yeah, I don't know anything about racing. This is true. You're right. You're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
You're watching the wrong show if you want to hear like super engineer stuff. Hitting the apex. Welcome back, gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, Ocon hit the gasoline and got fired, but we'll get to that later.
Woo!
Also, I will say the funniest part of the intro with the we're not super engineering stuff is the guest we've had on the most is literally a 7-time world champion aerodynamicist for Mercedes. Gabe.
Oh, it's true.
Right? We got to get him back on, man.
Yeah, we should get him back on. He's actually, when they go on, which is coming up closer than you think, when they go on summer break, that'd be a good show to bring him on.
Him and what's his name, Vincenzo. Remember him? He was a trip.
Vincenzo went like the F1 lifestyle route, I think now. Like in terms of that's what his content's around, I believe.
Oh yeah. He does a lot. I mean, obviously he's a big Ferrari guy, but he does a lot of content. So big ups to him. We'll get him on the show again soon. So he was cool cat. We got to get the two girls. God, what's her name? You know her name better.
Yeah,
Blackstreet, is it? Blackstreet?
Blackstock. Elizabeth Blackstock is on with us, and then her partner in crime is Alana's King.
Yeah,
they might have gotten too big time for us. They've exploded in the last year.
What the hell are we doing then? What's going on with us? Why haven't we exploded?
I mean, look.
Because we're not super duper engine stuff.
I mean, they are racing reporters to everything. Like they go to NASCAR and then Indy and then cover F1. They're we show up once a week and talk.
we have 9-to-5s over here. Sometimes
we have 9-to-5s and 100 other shows. So
right, exactly.
But
here we are, man. Here we are to talk about the good stuff. What everybody really wants to talk about, anyways, which is whatever.
Sergio Perez.
Yeah, whatever the hell we
I think we'll do the driver stuff probably towards the end, but we should probably start with there's a race this weekend. So
there is a race. It's the Canadian GP, as Evan mentioned. It's the Villeneuve
Circuit de Jacques Villeneuve.
Gilles
Villeneuve.
Yeah,
so, Montreal. This is round 9. I feel like this season is taking forever. We're only at round 9.
It is because we have too many races. I mean, honestly, there's too many races.
Yeah. There's way too many. I mean, we're talking about like a 5-6 month racing calendar, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, and it is. What's it? 23 races now. So it's like one every. If you just did every other week, there's not enough time. So that's why that's so.
That's true.
Compressed, and there is still the summer break, but
yeah. To me, it's just crazy with all of these, weeks in between. Like you got, 2 weeks ago was Monaco. It's like you feel like it should be a little bit quicker. You feel like there's too many weeks in between nowadays.
I agree, but here we are, 1978, 70 laps. This is a long one, but it's a shorter circuit. So you've got a couple different detection zones, DRS detection zones. It's very kind of straightforward, man. A lot of straights. There's a pretty difficult chicane there. I can't see what corner that is. Is that 13 and 14? Yeah, 13 and 14. So there's only 14 corners in the whole thing, right? Am I reading that right? I'm blind.
Yep. Yeah, no, that is they call it the.
There we go.
Right here between 14 and the start finish straight is the what they call the Wall of Champions, which is where if you don't get that 13-14, you end up in the Wall of Champions, which most champions have at some point ended up in the Wall of Champions.
I think that the most intriguing part is going to be, is going to be that start, right? Because you go from that start to that I guess you can call it kind of like a chicane into a really deep kind of turn there in corner number 2, very Monegascan like there on that little turn there, and then you've got a small little straight and then the chicane, and and then you're off to the races. So this is an interesting one. I think that's where you'll see a lot of potential overtakes coming at you, which hopefully we've got a little more action this time around. I think. Look, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, even a week ago, how tight this I guess this year has kind of become with a lot of the other teams starting to really perform and be competitive, a la Ferrari and McLaren. So uh, yeah, hopefully you'll see some exciting action here. You're probably going to see some VCSs, virtual, yeah, VSCs, not
Yes, see.
VSCs, uh, some of those, and I think that this is going to turn out to be a fun one to watch. I think it'll be a little different. There is going to be overtakes here. There is opportunities for a lot of cars to be in the mix again. But again, you're probably going to see the top 3, right? Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, and whatever kind of position you want to give them there. I think they're all going to, again, be at the top, and then you've got the rest in the middle and the end of the pack. So what's your take, guys, on this circuit? It's not relatively new, but 78. So there is a little bit of history here. I know there's been some changes and whatnot, but what if you guys can remember anything that really kind of pops out at you from this race, from this track, and who it benefits the most? What's something that stands out to you guys on this one?
Well, I mean, realistically, section one or sector one is the most difficult part of this track. Everything else is pretty much straightaways and a couple of chicanes thrown in here and there. But that sector one has always been one of the hardest sectors on this track, and it really sets you up for the rest of the lap. During qualifying or even during the race. You have the long DRS zone between turns 7 and 8. That first one, and then the 2 on the basically the front straight, or I guess you could say the long front straight with the chicane right in the middle of it. It's a high power circuit. It's a circuit that you could see these teams that have a lot of speed going into it and doing well. You'll have McLaren, who seems like they have a lot of top speed right now. Even Williams, those types of teams that have that top end speed, but maybe not so great in the slower corners. They'll do great in that section or sector 2 and 3, while 1 they'll struggle a little bit. But like I said, that sector 1 is really it's iconic. It's one of or turn 1. There's always havoc in the start of every single race here. At turn 1, it's one of the most visually iconic turns that you see in Formula One nowadays. They've been here, like you said, since 1978, and it's always a great race here. Would we like to see Lance Stroll maybe do something good here? We'll see.
No,
I don't. Lance Stroll shouldn't be in Formula One, but
he should be driving, right?
Nepo baby will always have a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Evan said. I'd also just add, turn 10 is that hairpin. One of the things to look at is the DRS detection zone is before that. So if you look, it's right after turn 9. So if you're within a second there, you can really close up in the hairpin. If you stay tight through there and get a good launch out of turn 11, you'll get, as Evan said, it's basically DRS with a little break and then more DRS. There's an excellent opportunity to overtake either into turn 13 or into turn 1. And keeping in mind, again, that's all one DRS area. You close the wing as you go through turn 13.
Isn't that crazy? Crazy?
Yeah, and what that means is there's not another detection zone. So we have seen in other races where there's back-to-back DRS zones, and they kind of like, I don't want to overtake in the first one because they go through another detection zone, then they get it back and they come back at you. In this case, if you can overtake going to turn 13 and you were in the DRS zone here, you can really open that gap up because you're going to get it again.
So there's one here in sector 2. There isn't a DRS zone here.
There's no detection. This detection line right here, right after turn 9. I think you guys can see my mouse. Yeah. That detection zone is for all of this.
For the top, right?
All of it.
And then this detector zone down here before it turns 6
is for this.
Just for the small.
So essentially, you're using this DRS to keep within a second to get this one, right. And then you basically have it for half the lap, almost the whole back end of the lap. And it's been a while since we've had a DRS friendly track. Monaco doesn't even matter. And Red Bull.
Yeah,
they have that huge DRS advantage they haven't really been able to use. So it'll be interesting to see if that helps them a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be as Evan, you mentioned, right, that first sector is iconic, but again, it could really determine what happens to a lot of these guys if you make one bad move, if you make a mistake here, if whatever it is that you kind of do there in that first sector, it's going to play out. You're going to see it play out in the rest, right? The sector 2 and sector 3. If you're good in sector 1, you got a good opportunity to be in the front of the field, and that's just the bottom line. If you can get out of there unscathed, if you don't lock up, if you don't take the corner too wide, whatever the case is, if you do well in sector 1 there, then you've got an opportunity to really have a strong outcome here.
Yeah, and car setup will be key because again, there's sector 1 is just slow corners, and then the rest of it's a lot of.
Do you want more downforce here? Or do you want less downforce here?
Well, you got to balance it, right?
Yeah,
and it's hard to get that balance exactly right, so you can get through the first sector quickly enough, but still not compromise top end speed when you are going to be, really, especially sector 3, really just flooring it in top gear and really going through the gears there. So.
See, this is not like one of those other tracks like Monza, even where you'll see a lot of track specific modifications on these cars. I think this is more of a traditional style of track, I guess you could say, even though technically, I mean, it's considered a normal track, but isn't it still like a road course?
Absolutely. It's technically a street circuit. It's
technically a street circuit because it's like at a park.
So the asphalt is going to be
they did. I was going to get to this entire, but they resurfaced the track.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
So they'll be able to use setups or similar setups to other tracks, kind of like even Albert Park or something like that, or tracks that have similar, or that use similar setups. This is a track that they can kind of play with that setup a little bit more, and it even goes into what we're about to talk to next with the tires.
Yep, the tires, right? They're using the softest compound, C3 to C5, for this one. Which I think is, if you think about it, is appropriate, right? You've got these straights there where you want to make sure that, but you also want the softest type of tires.
Yeah, and I think they err on the side of just going softer when they're not sure, and I don't think they're sure. Because you can always say, okay, we have to put in
They've done it before this year.
Yeah,
already.
and
right.
I mean, we're not going to read the article on the air, but they talk about, there's a new surface. This is our guess. We'll find out when we really can test during tests. So practice 1 will be big for the tire deck, but they went with this one because it's the conservative choice. If you go too hard and the tires can't grip at all, that's a safety issue. So you'd rather wear them more quickly than you anticipated. So when they're not sure, they tend to go a step softer. They've gone for the 3 softest ones, and worst case you're running worst case, which we've seen quite a few times actually, like. The soft is just not a usable race tire.
Right.
And that's something that they're okay with now. That again, it's been a few years now, but when they changed the rules so that you didn't have to start on your qualifying tire, that allows them to be a little bit more aggressive as well because they can use the soft in Q3 and then start the race on the mediums or hards. So
yeah, this looks like it's 70 laps, right? So you're definitely, your pit strategy is going to be important in this one. However, if you go with the hards, you probably got an opportunity to go deep into the race.
I would expect the front runners to probably start in the mediums because you don't want to get jumped at the start, and some of the ones that maybe qualify out of position, hoping to run longer on the hards, make up some ground, and maybe get a as Jazz mentioned, VSC safety car, get a cheap pit stop, and hards obviously allow you to extend the window for that to happen.
Jane, by the way, that's unacceptable. I can't believe you. Being late.
Unbelievable.
Tisk. Let me tell you. Okay.
I know. The surprise is we were actually on time for
I
once.
know. I was like, I got in here and I was like, where is everybody?
I got in the backstage. I'm like, everyone's here. What happened?
Oh man, it's okay. We'll let it slide, Jay.
Yeah.
We'll let it slide.
Only for tonight.
Only for tonight. You're right. You're right. As we mentioned earlier, if I could get to it, here we go. Resurface track. Here's the timing of this session. Well, I don't.
Oh, whoops! I hit the wrong one. But the weather came up as I hit the wrong tab. But there could be. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to because I thought it played into the tires.
You know what I do, right? When it comes to rain, Fernandito all the way.
Well, so I actually drilled into the detail forecast earlier. It is hit or miss, scattered showers.
Okay.
So we're gonna get changeable conditions. So
yeah, there has been rain at this track before for different races, and it's usually good racing, even during raining. So we'll see what happens with the surface. You got to worry about are they gonna be able to build up enough grip off of free practices and stuff like that when they are running if they all get washed away with the rain.
Who's the most recent winner of this one? Last year,
you got to say Max.
Yeah, without even looking, I'm gonna say Max.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was Sainz, but Sainz.
Let's see if we're right here. No. It does not have the.
It usually says it there, right? Yeah.
Hey, right there to the right. Race results. 2023 race results.
We'll do some live screen. Yeah. There we go.
I
mean, he only won by 10 seconds, so it was a slow race for him.
And Fernando Alonso, there you go. You see.
It is, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the rain is a variable that'll impact pit strategy and all that good stuff. If you read the forecast, though, it is a little hit or miss. It's mostly raining in the morning, scattered showers in the afternoon. So you could, we could be a lot of interesting strategy calls in the race, especially where it's like,
this race is again on our time, which is nice, right? Well,
it is nice. Well, yeah,
close.
I don't know. I kind of like the.
I do like the morning races.
I just like getting up. You watch you watch the race. You're in and out by like 10. You can go about your day.
This is true.
For me, this is bad because it's right when I have to go into work. So I'm like, can I watch it? Oh, I got to turn it on here. It's like,
you got a 1:30 FP1's at 1:30 on Friday. Excuse me. Friday. Yeah, Friday. And then you've got FP2 at 5 o'clock. Yeah, 5 p.m. Followed by FP3 on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon at 12:30, and then you got qualifying at 4. Typical time for a race in North America, 4 o'clock. Qualifying, you got the race at 2 p.m.
And one thing to keep in mind, I can look at the actual timing, but this doesn't. Obviously, Miami, you notice it's brighter later during the summer, but the further north you go,
it's darker.
No. It accelerates the brightness. So this time of year, it'll be sunny in Montreal until 9 or 10 p.m. That's why they start these.
That's
sessions.
crazy.
That's even here in DC now, 9 p.m. the sun is just setting.
Yeah, it's setting around 8:15.
Yeah. So I mean, when I lived in Detroit for some of the first I get there, I was like, is the clock wrong? Oh no, it's just bright. Now the wind, like you said, Jazz, the winter is the opposite. It's like it's 3:30. Why is it dark outside? The sun.
It's kind of like here, except on day.
It's more extreme. Farther you get away from the equator. So you see it in Miami, but not, and that's why there's a 4 o'clock start on the qualifying, and practice 2 is at 5.
Yeah, you can't do a night race. By the time it finishes, God forbid there's any any stoppage or red flags. You won't get out of it until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but I mean, practice 2 starting at 5 p.m. is pretty late to start a session. But
true.
Yeah, for a race that's not lit on a lit track.
Right. So. because it's not.
Yeah. This is just a normal outdoor track.
Yeah.
What else we got? So here are the standings, real quick, before we get to it.
Update on where we stand here. I mean, it is closer than we expected at this point. I'll tell you,
it's closer than it's been in a while.
Yeah, it's a little more competitive. I mean, I feel like this week is going to be we'll get into that now, but
but I mean, Max is a DNF away from being in trouble here. So, now of course anyone could DNF. He's a DNF from Charles. A race went away from opening a massive gap back up.
Right.
But this is. I felt Max is obviously the favorite to win the title, but this is not over.
Well, I think the biggest thing is if he doesn't land it on pole, if he doesn't land on pole, it's actually going to be tougher for him now, right? Whereas in the past couple of years, he starts in 6th or 7th or 8th, even 10th, and he's right up in second.
I would be interesting to see how much he's able to cut through the field if he's like not on pole on this race, just because the DRS on that car is so good.
Right.
And again, they haven't really had a chance to do anything with that. At San Marino, he was fading at the end and just held off Lando. So the car is not where it was though. So but this does feel like a track where the car with the superior DRS would have a lot of success. So if they don't, that's a whole other.
But I think so. If you really think about it, right? Speaking of DRS, who are the teams with the top DRS systems? It's probably the top 3 teams, right? As you mentioned, Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren. They're the quickest on the straights. I know Williams is pretty quick on the straights. So is, I know I hate to mention it, but so is Haas, right? Haas is pretty quick on the straights as well. But when it comes to DRS systems and everything else, I think that Red Bull and Ferrari and McLaren, that's why they're at the top.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that's exactly what's going on. That DRS that they have is ridiculous. It's almost like they're getting an extra 20, 30 horsepower in the engine just whenever they hit that button to open up that flap in the rear wing. But at the end of the day, there is more parity now. There is more cars that are able to compete. Max might be able to be within that 1 second to use that DRS, but that doesn't mean he's getting around Lando. That doesn't mean he's getting around Charles. Especially with how the DRS zones work out here in Montreal is there is that chicane, there is that tight turn 1, and going into the hairpin off of or going into the other chicane, in the front straight one DRS zone. So there's a lot of hard braking. It's a lot of tight corners. It's not a lot of sweepers that they'll be able to just power all the way through. As soon as they turn off that DRS and go into the corner. So it's going to be more difficult, but, at the end of the day, that DRS on that Red Bull is just ridiculous.
This is the race that's really in jeopardy of kind of turning over after this, after Canada. I mean, if you really think about it, because of how shitty Checo looks, even if, let's say, right, hypothetically, Buddy wins. What's his name? Max. You got 25 points there, so you're at 290? No, you're at 301, right?
Yeah, 301. Doing math. This is risky.
Jeez.
live mathing never ends well, but
you're at 301, and these guys are 40 something points away. Then you're getting even closer within 10 points. But let's say Max for some reason finishes 3 or 4 or 5, and Ferrari finishes 2 and 3 or 1 and 3. You got an opportunity here for Ferrari to take over the top spot, which is something we didn't really think would happen. That's if Checo races like crap, right?
But I mean, they can definitely close the gap, and the fact that's within
24 points right now,
is pretty remarkable given the dominance of Red Bull for most of the season. It's only like the last couple of races where there's even been a challenge, but. Checo, as you said, has been struggling and it's left the door open. There's only so much one driver can do, and Max is basically at the maximum and carrying this team. This is 100%.
They're just going to keep on chipping away. Ferrari's just going to keep on chipping away at that lead.
Yeah, the one thing Red Bull has in their favor is yes, Checo's, bad. He'll get some points and. The Ferraris and McLarens will wedge themselves in between each other. They're not like Ferrari is not that separated from McLaren,
right?
Where it's necessarily going to be both of our cars are going in the top 3, and then Max is the other spot. It's not necessarily that. Like you could get Piastri or Norris in there, and you could easily. This is not my prediction, but you could see Max, both McLarens, and then both Ferraris. And then, they've fallen a little bit further behind, even regardless of what Checo does. So the fact that there's 2 teams pushing, and if it was just Ferrari pushing Red Bull, they'd have a much better chance of winning the Constructors and, frankly, winning the Drivers' Championship. But the 3-way, that advantage Red Bull has built in will hold up longer.
Yeah.
You all right. All right, let's get down to it. down to nitty gritty before we. Well, you want to do news first before we do predictions, I guess.
Well, we didn't do drivers to watch, right, or whatever we call it.
Yeah, you want to do that first? Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Who are your drivers, Vish? Who are you watching?
So this will play. We'll definitely talk about the drivers swapping around stuff and some of the changes, but I'm gonna pick both the ones that had news, like Ocon. Like I don't know what he's where his mindset is at this point. He basically got fired
for him this week.
No, he's driving. He's driving to the end of the
That's right. He's done it.
But where's his headspace at? Given, I mean, he basically got fired walking back to the garage in Monaco. But they interviewed like the team principal was like, we're gonna make changes, and he's gone. I mean, that's pretty. And frankly, I don't.
Do you agree with that change?
They had to do something.
I don't think what he did in Monaco was nearly that bad. I think it was the culmination of there's beef between them. They had to pick one of the two guys. They cannot have those.
Yeah.
But also that team sucks ass. Like they got so many problems that like he's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And the other one,
I actually think he's a pretty damn good driver. You know,
no,
he's good. Gasly is also good. They hate each other. There's
the problem.
There's women beef in their past, and it's just it was going to be toxic from the game. But also that car is awful. Yeah. Like Renault is a major manufacturer, the largest manufacturer in the world, and they suck. You know, it's not. This is not Williams. Like we're trying to scrape some money. This is they have more money than Ferrari and Mercedes, and Red Bull, and they blow it. So part of this is also to distract a little bit from, you know, you do these moves, these announcements so people don't. I've got distracted by just comment.
I know, me too.
Wow, Evan, you have the bully pulpit because you're on air, so you can respond however you want.
I love my shirt and I love my hat. Thanks, Mom.
And I love my mommy. All right. That's awesome. We'll all be wearing the same thing soon enough. So don't worry. Thanks to Evan's mommy.
Yes, absolutely. And then the other driver is Checo. They for some reason extended him, which we're going to talk about.
Wild, man. Wild.
He's got to pay that off. We talked about the tightness of the Constructors' Championship. He's got to put some points up there.
We'll definitely talk about stuff that he has on Werner or Helmut Marko or somebody over there.
That's got something on there.
It's crazy, man. I mean, so who's your driver? I guess it's Ocon, right? You said this?
Yep, I'll go Ocon.
What about you, Evan?
I want to see what Charles is going to do. Is he going to be able to back up what he did in Monaco, or was that just a one-time thing? You know, is it something that was so track specific that he just got that perfect lap in that we were talking about 2 weeks ago? You know, that during qualifying to make it, in that mold of it's a procession race and they're just going to go with it and he's going to win? Or is this car really a challenger? Is it really something that could keep up? We already know that the McLaren is a challenger to the Red Bull. We saw that in Imola, we saw that in Miami, where he either walked away from him or was catching right up to him right at the end of the race. But the Ferrari really hasn't done that yet. It's been up there. It's been in the points. It's been, podiums, but it really hasn't had that situation yet where, they're running away from Red Bull or they're pulling away from Red Bull, except for, again, at Monaco, which is such a unique track. It's, not something that you can really compare with other racetracks. So, I'd like to see if he can back up that what happened last week on a more traditional style track like it is here in Montreal, and if he can, then you have that fight on for that constructors. We all are pretty much a consensus that Max has got this, drivers championship locked up. But, if that car can, do something here and show in the next few races, that it is something that could be formidable, then I'd love to, get behind that and see some more challenges, for the rest of the year.
Well, I'm on the other side, right? I never thought I'd be saying this, but I think does Max feel the pressure? Is he gonna, kind of start thinking a little bit in the back? He hasn't had this issue since, 3 years ago when he was battling Lewis Hamilton. Hey, look, is there someone right up on my ass again? How do I perform? How do I go out there and continue to I guess dominate? Can I still dominate? Is this car still dominant worthy? Because obviously you hear him on his radio calls always talking like if it's the end of the world, and we all know that's typical Max. But does he start to think some of that stuff now? Is he, it's going to test his championship pedigree right now. I think that if he can sit there in that car and put in a massive lap, as they like to say, right, and put it on pole, then Max is he's not messing around. But again, if he ends up in third or fourth, or even further back in qualifying, then you start to ask that question, like, has everybody really caught up, or is he just kind of having the yips a little bit, where he's getting in his own head a little too much. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. If you see him kind of come out in FP1 and really do really well, then he might be poised for a really good weekend. We've seen it before that he just dominates practice, qualifying, everything, and boom, he just he kills it on race day as well. So we'll see. I think a lot of people aren't too concerned with it. I wouldn't say I'm concerned with it. I just want to see him, if he is still who everybody thinks he is, and it'll be fun to see a match of some competitiveness between those three, between the McLaren, the Ferrari, and the Red Bull. But I think all eyes are on Max again now to see if he can come out and dominate like he's been doing.
Yeah, just a couple of questions from the Sons family. Are you able to pass on this track? Yes. It will not be a Monaco. You can pass here. And then, Evan told us I know we were joking earlier, we do above and beyond, and you did not have to do that. We will acquire them from Evan so we can
very appreciative.
We can wear matching outfits. But that was very, very
it's not all matching. It's a different hat and different shirts.
Okay. So
all right.
That's
fine. We'll wear it all together.
No, but that was above and beyond and very kind. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely. Very appreciated.
Jazz, what you brought up, there's kind of like, after the fact, and there were years where when Mercedes was dominating, it was kind of 1-2 every race. And but there were also a couple of years where they got pushed. One where Ferrari was using their illegal engine and pushed, and Hamilton had to pull in Singapore. It's one of the famous qualifying. He said a massive lap out of his ass, essentially. It was a Ferrari track to really put the title away. Like, oh man, if Ferrari 1-2s this because it's their type of track,
right,
then it's going to close the gap up. They'll ratchet the pressure up. Now we're early in this season, but if Max can put it on pole and dominate this race, it'll kind of restore order. And there were times in that Mercedes run where Lewis Hamilton had to do it. He's got to restore order this weekend. They're catching up. If he DNFs or screws up and they win, that's really going to tighten up. And he would put it on pole, dominate the race, and be like, all right, I'm back here. Screw all of you. And Max has that ability, and the car has that ability. Interesting, like you said. Does he shut the door? We're all hoping for a championship race, but he could easily get 26 points out of this weekend. Say, what? You forgot who I was? What did you think this was? So
and he'll let you know too. So
absolutely,
which is kind of cool. What else do we got here?
Well, we didn't formally talk about the driver stuff, but you asked me, Jazz and Evan, what are your thoughts on the Ocon?
I mean, it had to happen. I
think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think something had to happen, but I'm with you on I kind of side on I don't think it was as bad as they made it out to seem. I just think that because of the beef, because of everything else, it kind of magnifies it even more, right? And what's the FIA and what's the F1 without a little drama, man? I mean, come on, right? Like, they need to have this. This storyline is going to go really well on
Drive to Survive.
On Drive to Survive, right? Listen, they're about that, right? We know F1 is dramatic. They like all this stuff too, and so I don't think this is the end for Ocon. I think you might see him in another car next year. There's still a lot of positions that are open, so you're probably going to see him at another team. But and rightfully so. I think he's talented enough to stay on the grid. Like he should be driving in F1. But I think the best thing they could do is separate these two. I think it's going to be better for the team. It's going to be better for the drivers, right? And I think in the long run that it made sense. So I agree with the move. Whether it would have been him or Gasly, I think it's still a good move.
I think Gasly is the better driver.
I think so too. I think so
I do
too.
But now Ocon did win a race in the Alpine. So.
Yeah, right. But still.
Well, I think Ocon has played right. He's been on the podium first, second, and third, right? P1, P2, and P3 in his career.
Yeah.
For a guy who was in a
shit
most of the time. He's
good. You know, the thing is, an interesting, scenario in this whole thing is Ocon and Toto have a really, really good relationship. They're really tight. Like they're he was a Mercedes driver. He's a Mercedes guy, technically,
Right.
He came up through their academy and everything. So if this Kimi Antonelli situation doesn't happen with Mercedes, I could definitely see Ocon slotted over there being with George Russell and him driving that second Mercedes car, because obviously Lewis is leaving. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We all kind of just assume, they're trying to get Kimi over there, or, to put him in that second seat. But at the end of the day, like, Ocon, because of his relationship, now he's available for next year. You could see him going over there for the next couple of years, at least until 2026 when the new regulations come in. Sign that 2-year contract, kind of just like what we're going to talk about next with Sergio, and slot in somebody new right after that. But he's definitely a solid driver. He's definitely somebody who deserves to be on the Formula One grid. A lot more than some of the other people we see on the grid right now. So we'll see what happens, but I can see that happening big time.
What else we got next there? We've got
Jazz. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about your boy Sainz as a potential for Renault? They have money.
They have
money. They better have the car too.
Well, they don't have the car, but as Evan mentioned, a lot of this is.
It's going to change.
It's right? Playing forward for the night. That's why that's why you're going to have a lot of driver swapping, because you don't want to change drive. You want the drivers in the car as you're developed, because they're gonna be testing the 2026 one.
What's Renault in 2026? What are they moving to? Audi?
No, that's Alpine is Renault. It's just
Alpine is Renault.
It's their sports car. It's their sports car brand.
It's
just a branding thing. It's
my bad. I'm getting them all mixed up. Yeah.
Well, I called them something they're not, so it's really my fault. But they're Alpine.
I was like,
they're Renault. Last time they won a championship.
Yeah. But you're right. Renault is Alpine, correct? Yeah.
I guess the open seats now are
they the best?
Alpine.
Yeah.
Well, there's one at Alpine. Okay. There's one at Mercedes.
Okay.
2 at RB.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not really an option for Sainz. And then Williams hasn't officially fired Logan Sargent, but he's gone.
Here's my question: what is the best possibility for him to win a race or to even podium? Right. That's, to me, at the end of the day, what it boils down to. It's not a McLaren, it's not a Red Bull, and it's not a Ferrari, clearly, because all those seats are taken already. So where is the next one where there is the strongest possibility of him being on the podium or even potentially even winning a race?
Mercedes.
And I think it's Mercedes. I think that's why I think that's where he needs to end up, because Toto will pull something out of his ass, right? Or that team will pull something out of somewhere. And all of a sudden, they're back in it, right? 2026 is right around the corner. They obviously have to scratch whatever they're doing now. It's terrible. But they also have to be a little embarrassed that they gave a Mercedes engine to McLaren. McLaren is smoking them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is something that they're going to have to really dig deep and say, this is going to be our best chance to win. Bring in Carlito, and they need to redevelop, obviously, everything about that car. But if there's anybody that can do it, I think it's Mercedes. They've got the resources and the pedigree to go out there and compete. And I think that he might be able to bring in some new energy to that team, and him and Russell can maybe make some noise for Mercedes in a few years.
I mean, I understand that logic, but my only concern with that is that Mercedes has already kind of invested themselves in, as much as we don't like him, George Russell. I think that they know that he's the number one, and he's going to continue to be the number one.
Yeah, well, you're going to have an issue if Carlos comes in because he's
exactly that's my point. I think Carlos wants to go to. I think the thing about it is Carlos has been in 2 teams, and the last 2 teams he's been in, he's been the number 2, the clear number 2, when he was in McLaren, and then going to Ferrari with Charles. And he pretty much has outperformed both of those drivers in both of those spots. He outperformed Lando when he was in McLaren. He outperformed Charles because, he's got 3 more wins than he does in this time span. So he wants to go to a place where he's the number one, where he's the guy. It's kind of like a situation like what happened with Danny Rick a few years ago when he left Red Bull. He knew he wasn't going to be the number one moving forward, whether he was outperforming Max or not. He knew that he was going to be playing second fiddle. So he went to Renault saying, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be their superstar. And it just didn't work out because that car was, so trash back
then. But I mean, does it matter really if you're still winning races and outperforming? At the end of the day, I'm asking.
It does to these guys.
Doesn't matter,
well,
right?
it did matter. It mattered because he got fired.
Yeah.
So because he was the number 2 driver, it wasn't performance based.
Yeah.
They had a chance to get Hamilton, which you'll do 10 times out of 10. Who you're going to replace the number 2 driver? Now McLaren he left voluntarily because Ferrari is Ferrari, right? So that was a little bit. He's like he was forced. So he would still be a McLaren if he didn't want to leave. But I think he would be the lead guy at Renault or Alpine for sure. Mercedes. I mean,
I still say he goes to Audi.
He could. That's certainly an option
because that's going to be a lot of money thrown in there from the VW group. He'll be the lead driver.
I just don't want to see him in a Sauber or Audi. That is Audi. Audi. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
but I don't want to see him in the Williams or the.
Well, it's a new.
It's just like
it's going to be a new era, so we'll see.
I know things will change. You never know.
I still say Audi. I think that's the best place for him because they're going to throw so much money into that. They're going to throw so much resources. Audi's not going to come in there to be second fiddle. As much as we say that's what happened with Renault when they came back.
I think he's going to be with Andretti.
Well, it's a possibility too. And I think
I know we're still ways away from that, but
Haas just sold his NASCAR side, so he's strapped for money. Stewart Haas Racing just folded in NASCAR. One of the most storied names in NASCAR just completely folded, and half of that name is Gene Haas. Does he have this money? Did he do that to save his Formula One, or did he do that because he's just so strapped that he needs to start liquidating these assets? And this could be that opportunity for Andretti to kind of slip in. Hey, it's an American team. It's another American team. Just trade it all over. Get that GM money in there. Get that Cadillac racing engine Formula One V6 up in there.
Wait, when's Le Mans? Le Mans is this weekend? Is it this week?
No, it's in 2 weeks, I think.
Or 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that. Just thinking about that for a second. Anyways, let's do some predictions. Yeah. I gotta hear it. Where am I gonna write? I gotta write this down, man. What the hell am I doing? All right.
Vish, you go first because I usually go first, so I'm gonna let you go first this time.
Vish, I see your facial expressions, bro. Talk to me.
I mean,
what are we doing?
I've been picking Max and he's been losing, so I'm going with it again.
Yeah. Yes.
So Max to win, Lando second, Leclerc third, and you know what? It's about time. George Russell DNF. It's time for it to happen.
There it goes.
There we go.
It's time to bring that bet.
He is
like the one time I don't pick it, then he does DNF, and then
he's doing DNF. He's doing DNF.
Usually there's a 1 race delay, so he'll finish on the podium this race, and then the next one, I'm like, I can't pick it again. Then he'll DNF. I think it's Silverstone after this. Maybe I don't know, but
we'll see. All right, what do you got there, Mr. Evan?
I'm gonna go with Max to win as well, just because I think that he's gonna try to right that ship. Like what we were talking about earlier, he's gonna just come out there and dominate, and that DRS is so good. But for second place, I'm gonna go OP Oscar Piastri. I think Oscar Piastri has had a string of bad luck lately. Past few races, he had situations that he was in a fast car, he was running really good, but things just happened, and he didn't have that opportunity. So I'm going to go Oscar Piastri in second, and then let's go on a McLaren double podium, Lando in third. We'll see if this high speed track will do good with that car, and if they'll be able to keep up, up there. And it's going to be a rather tight race. The last time we saw it was only a 10-second lead, and that was last year when Max was dominating. So this could be a lot closer race, this year. For my surprise pick, I'm going to go Lance Stroll in the top 8. That's pretty much a win for him.
Yeah, no shit.
Wow, going with the hometown kid.
Lance Stroll in the top 8.
Yeah, I want to do something crazy, but I don't know if I have. I don't know if I have it in me, man. I don't know if I have it.
Do
in
it.
Me, but
Do it.
You know what? What the hell, right? I'm gonna go Max P1, Leclerc P2, and I'm gonna go. Who is Hamilton? P3.
A distinguished choice.
I just think that some safety cars here, some mistakes there, and he can land himself on the podium. Why not, right? And then my surprise is going to be. I got one for you. Let's go Magnussen in the top 6.
Wow,
top 6. So you're saying he's going to beat one of the McLarens, Red Bulls, or Ferraris?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's just as shocking that he's not going to run into someone and fuck that.
Right. Anything. This is why anything can happen.
I would have allowed Magnussen to finish the race without a penalty, but
he is going to race. Oh yeah, that's right. He is.
They didn't even investigate it.
Yeah,
they knew they would have had to disqualify him for the next race. Carly's gone Max, Lando, Oscar with Yuki top 5.
Yeah. Yuki's been running good.
Yeah, he's been racing well. Yeah, he has. So, yeah, went a little crazy. I get it. Wait, Evan, did you give me your surprise? What was it?
Yeah, it was Lance Stroll top 8.
Oh, Stroll top 8. That's right. I didn't write it down. Like, where is it?
It was so outlandish you forgot to write it down.
This is true. All right, perfect. I got it. All right, let's see what happens. Anyways, make sure you follow us here on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. We've got the Canadian GP coming up this weekend, so we'll do some tweeting for you. We'll be on there talking about the race a little bit. But you can always check us out here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. for Hitting the Apex. Make sure you check us out, the Rewatch Crew. We appreciate it. Go on YouTube and check us out as well. We'll be on there. And, of course, we've got Canes on Deck coming up in about 5 minutes, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We've got a lot to cover.
Busy show.
Yep, busy show, definitely. So we'll try to get it out as quick as possible, but I can't guarantee that. I cannot guarantee that. Anyways, make sure you check us out. We'll be on in a little bit now. But thanks for everybody coming on the show, all the listeners, all the fans, all the people watching. And yes, go Cats, go Panthers. We'll see you guys next week.
Go Panthers.
Adios.